Occam's razor. To describe how to use this function of thought analysis properly, we need to first identify this as not being a barber's razor blade. It is more a picturing mentally of the answer we will attempt to prescribe as an object of sorts, which can be viewed by yourself as a motionless observer from a line of sight perspective which suits the most visible of it from the correct angle to include as much detail and recognition of the highest number of identifiable components that can be said to be the object, or otherwise a scene or perhaps shooting location of a film take which describes the intangible description of the answer. For instance, if the answer is a car, picturing a car from the best possible angle of perspective so that you can see as much that identifies it as a car, so would include the windows, headlights, side lights, rear wheel, front wheel, rear wing mounted, depth of any flanges, or flaring, seats, hubcaps, steering wheel, panoramic roof, wing mirror. Anything you can't see which you could if you changed your line of sight, without discounting the others will need to be made, and sure enough, you can now identify more in the same amount of time and prefer the new angle. So now you are happy with the best image. Note how long it takes you to list these things without repeating anything. And you will have a landscape type canvas as the print material also in your mind with enough space around the image to be white. In up to 4 times as fast as it took to count or list the identifiable components, you will imagine cutting around the image with a cutthroat razor, an oblong shape cut to cut out a landscape shape of the picture so as to freeze it and lock it as finished. If you are right-handed and Western, it will start from the top left and cut across the top without going into the image, to the top right corner and 90 degrees down to the bottom right and 90 degrees left to the bottom left and 90 degrees up to the top left to finish cutting it out. Most importantly, the first 2 90-degree cuts at the top right and bottom right locations have to be 90 degrees each. The third doesn't matter so much as long as you end where you started enough as to cut the image out cleanly, so without making a mess, so to speak. If you are left-handed or speak Arabic, or read right to left, you will do this the other way, starting from the top right and going anticlockwise. This will take you slightly longer, because you will be faster at finding the correct line of sight, but perhaps a little slower to read and list in your mind all the identifiable components in the highest amount. And if you can be 4 times faster than listing when cutting, at least you will be assured that this is the correct answer. If a possible answer that is likely can be made with a more satisfying line of sight that, indeed, fits your logical analysis as a short-listed answer and is easier to show to list more identifiable components that matter to you, in a more satisfactory line of sight that is clearer, then this may actually be the real answer. So ensure you have the best object pictured going on first. There will always need to be an area surrounding the object which is totally surrounding the image and be a white border to enable a single cut to avoid the image at all costs. If the image is the correct and only answer, but have little components, such as a snooker ball, then it may appear to you as having a massive white border, way more than if the answer before was a car. This is a good sign, as it is merely because there are only 2 or perhaps 3 or so components or identifiable shapes or curves and color to totally list, as well as nothing hiding behind the blind side of the line of sight you have fixed on, but you will still have the best angle showing the greatest area of the surface of it, which should always be the first angle you try before you look at the parts to it, structural or component, as well as both. Far from just being the most likely answer, this will actually always be the right answer. As long as nothing else can be pictured faster, have a higher number of identifiable components or structured elements, and be cut quicker, in that order, which makes you then think that is a better answer that you trust congruently. And it is all about congruence. Don't say you failed if you haven't. And don't then say you haven't failed if you have as well.